This video is brought to you by Patreon. Patreon! Not by the hair of my chinny chin chin. While 1989 was a significant year for Nickelodeon as a whole, for those watching Nick Jr., the morning programming block for preschoolers, it seemed to be business as usual. 2 shows were added to Nick Jr. this year, and from appearances they seemed to be building on the foundation Nickelodeon had set 10 years prior. Simple, musically inclined puppet shows, invested in providing a warm, comfortable place for 4-year-olds to hang out and make friends with the people on the screen. Hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And hey, if one of them was made in Canada and you can import it on the cheap, do that too. Premiering on Nick Jr. on September 4th, 1989, this is Fred Penner's Place.
Nick Jr. knows what you want. A place with no big people allowed.
I'm glad to see you today.
Well, maybe one big person.
I love a parade.
It's Fred Penner, and he'll take you to his special hideaway in the woods to share tunes,
It's a beautiful day for a home run.
tales,
Once upon a time,
and some special friends.
Boopity-boo.
Fred Penner's Place, every weekday after Eureka's Castle on Nick Jr.
Fred Penner's Place is about as simple of a show as you can get. Children's folk musician Fred Penner has a little hideaway in the woods, and he's invited you there for a day of fun and songs. Mostly songs, with Penner breaking out his guitar and going to town with a jaunty tune you can sing along to.
As I was walking down the street, down the street, down the street, a pretty girl I chanced to meet. Hi-ho, hi-ho, hi-ho. Oh, rig-a-jig-jig and away we go, away we go, away we go. Rig-a-jig-jig and away we go. Hi-ho, hi-ho, hi-ho.
Of course, what's a party if you're all alone? Penner is often accompanied by his friends, which includes Penelope, a studious little girl interested in learning things like the alphabet. Hey, Fred, let's turn the alphabet into a song.
A is for acorn.
B is for bark.
C is for chipmunks.
D is for dark. E is for elm tree.
Yeah?
F is for fern.
The more we look around, the more we learn. Alphabet all around, in the air, on the ground. Things we hear, things we see. Tell the alphabet to me.
There was also Nikki, who was all about putting on a show, gathering toys and puppets, and then coaching Penner through a performance. Hey Fred, can you get this lion character to sing in French and Spanish?
On va briller ce soir, on va briller. On va briller ce soir, on va chanter. Tout pomponné ce soir, on est très bien. Le soleil se couche et la lune se lève. On va it vanish. Vamos brillar esta noche, vamos brillar. Vamos brillar esta noche aquí por allá. Todos están tan felices y quieren cantar. Cuando hay una luna en el cielo, vamos brillar.
Hey, Fred, you did it. That was great.
Penelope and Nikki were both played by Jan Skeen, so the two characters rarely interacted. There was Giorgio, played by Fraggle Rock puppeteer Francie Anderson, a tree frog who has to keep his little house clean and tidy.
Now everybody has a right to be wrong.
At least once.
Everybody has a right to be done like once like.
And finally, there was the Word Bird, who would deliver the word of the day and give that episode its theme.
Oh, I'm just...
hey, there's Wordbird. Hi, buddy. Thanks. Aha, look at this. C-O-N-S-T-R-U-C-T. That spells construct. Construct. That gives me a great idea, Nikki. A wonderful
What?
idea.
Those were our regulars, but Fred Penner's Place also featured a rotating cast of guest performers, many of them from the Canadian folk scene, like Garnet Rogers, Holly Arntzen, and Heather Bishop.
Heather, Heather, Bo Feather, Bo Nana, Fana, Full Feather, Be Fine, Mo Mather, Heather.
There was also at least one crossover with another Canadian children's program, with Holly LaRock, human star of Under the Umbrella Tree, showing up to play dress-up and help Penner put on a show.
Stay on the sunny side, always on the sunny side. Stay on the sunny side of life.
Things will be fine. The
sun will always shine if you stay on the sunny side of life. If you stay on the sunny side of life.
And that's it, really. A few songs, maybe a minor conflict with a puppet friend that gets soundly resolved with even more songs, and then maybe switching things up with a song or two. It was about as simple as children's television can get, which means the success or failure hinged entirely on the personality running the show. Thankfully, Fred Penner was up to the task. Born on November 6, 1946 in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, Frederick Penner became invested in music early on, teaching himself guitar while still in grade school. Penner recognized early in the positive effects of music and how it affected his sister, who had Down syndrome.
You brought her smiles.
She brought me probably more than I brought her, because, I mean, anybody who knows the world of the Down syndrome child or any special needs child, they get into music on a level that is deeper than you could possibly imagine. So as a teenager, watching her literally become absorbed into sound, and it carried her away to the point of tears, and I thought, my goodness, is that what music is all about? And so I remembered that little benchmark, and then through my life there's been many things like that that have said music has value, it's important, it's necessary. It's not the kind of thing that should be cut from the school systems when they need more money, if you know what I mean.
Right.
Penner didn't pursue a career in music right away, though. Graduating from the University of Winnipeg with degrees in economics and psychology, he took a job at a residential treatment center for mentally handicapped children. And inspired by the interaction with his sister, he brought his guitar along. There were kids from all different backgrounds, and music seemed to cut right through that. We'd have sing-alongs at night, and it gave them a few minutes of something completely different. Realizing that there might be something to this music thing, Penner started hitting the coffee houses and pubs, all the while trying out for the local theater. Among Penner's early musical ventures included singing and playing rhythm guitar for a hillbilly comedy band called Cornstalk in 1975, where he learned to work a crowd.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our television program. We call ourselves Cornstalk, and confidentially, we're all ding dong.
However, Penner's interest pointed towards music for children, performing regular children's shows at the Manitoba Children's Theatre Workshop. After a children's show performance, Penner was approached by a local doctor, Martin Reed, and his wife. The two had found the show very engaging, and offered to finance Penner's first record. The album, The Cat Came Back, saw a minor printing in 1979, and consisted of a mix of original songs and covers, including its title track, Penner's version of Harry S. Miller's 1893 song, The Cat Came Back.
But the cat came back the very next day. The cat came back. They thought he was a gunner, but the cat came back. He just couldn't stay away. Give me a meow, go.
The Cat Came Back would arguably become Penner's signature song, though I'm personally quite fond of Penner's musical tribute to sandwiches.
Sandwiches are beautiful, sandwiches are fine. I like sandwiches, I eat them all the time. I eat them for my supper and I eat them for my lunch. If I had 100 sandwiches, I'd eat them all at once.
Self-published under Meow Records, this would have been a pretty minor release, but Penner decided to send a copy to another bearded Canadian children's performer, Raffi, arguably the biggest name in children's music until the Wiggles showed up. Raffi was impressed with Penner's work, and in 1980, The Cat Came Back was given a much larger second printing through Raffi's personal publishing company, Troubadour Music Incorporated. The album ended up selling a respectable 42,000 copies. It was soon followed in 1981 with The Polka Dot Pony, and in 1983 with Special Delivery. It was the perfect time for Fred Penner, with acts like Raffi and Sharon Lois and Bram paving the way for a healthy children's folk song market. This was, at least in part, a result of a new adult generation. This happened because the people from the post-war baby boom were having kids. During the 60s, everyone was trying to figure out their identities and purpose in life. They weren't interested in having kids. Now they're ready to have families. They know who they are. They had spent time on the self-awareness thing. Now they are more mature and want to be settled. They want to guide and nurture their children. In many ways, the Canadian children's folk music scene and Nickelodeon are siblings, born around the same time in response to the same market demand from young baby boomer parents wanting something intellectually and emotionally stimulating for their children. In 1984, Penner guest starred on an episode of Sharon Lois and Bram's Elephant Show, which had been airing on CBC. Shortly afterwards, CBC was looking for a replacement for The Friendly Giant, which was ending after a 31-year run. The channel contacted Penner and asked if maybe he'd like his own TV show. And remarkable for most of show business, CBC let Penner come up with whatever he wanted, so long as it was within budget and episodes were 15 minutes long. So Penner started thinking, and a simple concept, requiring a simple set, a perfect low-stake program to be your first television show. Or so you'd think. The simplicity of it all actually raised expectation on the speed of production. Filming for Fred Penner's Place went at an absurdly breakneck speed, filming 4 15-minute episodes a day, each episode taking 2 hours to go from original blocking to final shooting. In less than 3 months, an entire 96-episode first season was in the can. It was a horrendous schedule. There was no way I could memorize complete scripts for every show. I gave our writer, Pat Patterson, just about every idea I ever had, and then we had to coordinate the pieces into a workable framework. Then I'd readapt it to my own style. There was an episode where Fred decided you can see the stars, and he picks up a walking stick to use as a telescope. The episode was done, and we're sitting around later on, and we realized, oh no, we just taught a kid to put a stick in his eye. So we went back and fixed that up. However, this quick turnover time meant the show was ready even earlier than CBC had anticipated. Originally announced to premiere in January of 1986, Fred Penner's Place instead premiered on CBC on October 21st, 1985, just in time for the fall television season. And it was a success, drawing in a weekly audience of 2 million young viewers. Fred Penner's Place was quickly renewed for a second season, and then a third, and so on. In 1987, a half-hour version of the show was commissioned to be produced separately. While the 15-minute version was filmed in Winnipeg, the half-hour version was filmed in Vancouver. Initially, the music of the show came from a wide range of sources, many of them folk song classics and covers from other artists, used surprisingly freely.
Are you ready? Come on, here we go. Calling out around the world. Are you ready for a brand new beat? That's right. We're all here and the time is right for dancing in the street. There's dancing in Chicago.
There was this unwritten law that because it was children's TV, you didn't have to worry about royalties because it was for a generation that would grow up to appreciate it. We were drawing songs from decades before. It was wide open. I was learning all sorts of intricate guitar patterns. However, as the 1990s approached, issues of music rights began to spring up, and the program had to rely more and more on original songs from Penner. All the while, Fred Penner was touring around Canada and still recording albums. So the show was successful. Even with a rushed production schedule, a dead simple concept, and virtually no production values, it still appealed to a young audience. So what made Fred Penner's Place work? Well, the show was fun, but not very silly. Respecting the show's young audience was key, and for Penner, being silly meant being condescending. Even when the puppet characters were introduced to the show in later seasons, they never went into full Muppet hysterics. These characters were all very real to life. Intelligence was never to be insulted. This era of children's music is built on folk tradition of communal performance and singing along. Most of Penner's songs on his albums feature a group of children singing along, encouraging the listener to sing as well. While there were no such children on the set of Fred Penner's Place, that would have been a logistical nightmare, the audience is still encouraged to sing along with just about every single song Penner breaks out. Which feeds into what I believe to be the show's central theme, the thing it's trying to teach kids above all else: confidence. Fred Penner wants kids to feel confident in themselves, and one of the most fun ways to translate that is having kids be confident in singing aloud. Sing about how you feel, sing about the world around you, sing and be heard. Even when the episode is teaching something else, it's actually really teaching confidence. Let's go back to that episode about Penelope learning the alphabet. It's not really about the alphabet, like this isn't Sesame Street. Most kids get that down early. Instead, the story is about how Penelope loses her alphabet book and isn't confident she knows the alphabet without that resource.
And confidence is the feeling you have when you are sure about what you know.
Oh, so it's inside of me like my other feelings.
That's right, Penelope. It's inside of you, and I am confident that you know your alphabet.
Having a little dedicated spot on the TV where a kid can feel comfortable, respected, and encouraged was more than enough to justify itself. And so we reach 1989 and find ourselves back in Nickelodeon. Nick had some great success with their Canadian imports over the years. Famously, You Can't Do That on Television defined the channel's green slime image and kids rule irreverence. But you could argue that the preschoolers got it even better, with Today's Special and Sharon, Lois and Bram's Elephant Show being beloved staples of the Nick Jr. programming block. Naturally, the channel was inclined to go to that Canadian well again. In terms of presentation and tone, however, Fred Penner's Place more closely resembled the American-made Dusty's Treehouse, another Nickelodeon gem. Naturally, Fred Penner caught Nick's eye. I really haven't seen anything like him in the States. I get the feeling, and I think kids do too, that he really likes them. There are performers who give the sense you are part of their team, you are up there on the stage with them. So after talks, CBC Enterprises licensed out 66 episodes of the half-hour version of Fred Penner's Place to Nickelodeon. With a cable subscription audience of 45 million households, Penner broke into the United States with a bang, leaving him with, shall we say, a cautious optimism. I'm very pleased. This whole career has been on a steady incline, and this is a nice development. I'm not sure what it all means, but I'm very pleased. It will be interesting to see what this does. I'm hoping that it will allow me to be more selective in the touring I do in the States and allow me more time to be creative, to work on larger projects from home base and spend more time with my young family. Penner did some touring in the States, and naturally his discography was sold here as well. Speaking personally, I loved Fred Penner's Place. It was a regular part of my morning viewing routine. Our family had a number of his records on cassette tape that we played over and over again. And when I told my mother I was making this video, she immediately broke out with the Sandwiches song. Fred Penner was a staple of my household. My nostalgia for this music and this show is very strong. Fred Penner's Place would air on Nickelodeon for just under 4 years, airing its last on August 31st, 1993. A solid run as far as these things go. Of course, back in Canada, the show was still filming new episodes, still being watched regularly. That was until 1997, when Peter Moss took over as the creative head of the children's programming department of the CBC. And with that, Fred Penner's Place was abruptly cancelled mid-production. And I do mean abruptly. I remember I got to the studio that day and the director said, "This is it." We went in, we rehearsed the songs, then we did the episode. It was lunchtime. I went back to my dressing room to work on songs for the afternoon. I'm sitting working on music and the director comes in and says, "What are you doing?" "I'm getting the songs ready for the last show." "No, that's it. We're done." Oh, after that moment of time and that level of commitment and that much creative energy, here it was. This juggernaut of my career just stopped instantly. There's no illusions here. I had a great run and certainly no sour grapes on that. But still it was like, why is this happening? With the show's rapid production schedule that included massive 96 episode seasons, Fred Penner's Place ended after 12 years with over 900 episodes under its belt. That's huge, and naturally you don't expect a complete DVD box set for a show that big, but so much of Fred Penner's Place is now lost media. A few select episodes were released on VHS in the 1990s, but copies are pretty rare these days, usually going between $50 and $100 on the secondhand market. In 2018, a dozen episodes were made available for streaming on the CBC Kids website, but they didn't stay up for long, and it doesn't seem that anyone ripped them while they were available. And that's it as far as official releases go. No DVDs, no official YouTube channel, nada. That just leaves home recordings to pick up the slack, but despite airing through the prime VCR era in both Canada and the States, results there have been pretty minor. Through official VHS releases, the tapes that have been uploaded to YouTube, and the help of a few file sharers, shout out to Vance for sending a few of these my way, I managed to collect a grand total of 11 of the 15-minute episodes and 4 of the half-hour episodes, plus a few loose clips, all of various quality. So why the poor home video presence? Part of it might be music rights, especially early on when Penner was performing a lot of covers. Contracts all around would probably have to be renegotiated if the show was going to get published on DVD or long-term streaming, but part of it might just also be demand. Fred Penner has sold a lot of albums, done a lot of tours, and has the hearts and nostalgic memories of a lot of people. But Penner was always kind of a perpetual bronze medalist, Harold Lloyd of the Canadian children's folk music scene. Successful, and in many ways better than Chaplin or Keaton, but not quite as appreciated in his moment. At the time of this writing, there's not even a Lost Media Wiki page for Fred Penner's place, and Lost Media Wiki has everything. Having roughly 1.6% of the show available to me also kinda makes it difficult for the Knacks project to fully critique it. Any criticism I could make might be addressed in footage I just don't have. For example, out of Penner's many guests, how many were people of color? Did any First Nation people appear on this Canadian program? The episodes I have are very, very white, but that's probably not representative of the show as a whole. There's just no way to tell with the resources available to me. Fred Penner's place was a big deal, an institution, and yet all we really have are fuzzy memories. Fred Penner was bummed when the show ended, but he still had plenty of ventures with records and touring, which he continues with to this day. His 13th and most recent album, Hear the Music, came out in 2017, and at the time of this writing, he's currently in the midst of his The Cat Came Back 40th anniversary tour. From what I've read and the interviews I've watched, Penner has always seemed much more comfortable at this level, strumming his guitar and singing about sandwiches in front of 40 kids at the local art center. But I'm grateful for the TV show and the memories it left behind for me and many others, as well as allowing Fred Penner to reach the States.
You know, sometimes it's easy to forget all the good things that you do when something goes wrong. But keep those good thoughts inside of your mind, all the good things that you do. And take good care of each other. That's what friends like to do. We've got to take good care. Take good care of each other. Confidence. See you soon.
Next time, Nick Jr. finally trades in Pinwheel for a newer model. How does this stack up, and what does it mean for the future of the channel? Today's research shout-out goes to the Winnipeg Free Press article, 30 Years Later, Fred Penner's Career is Still Going Strong, written by Jen Zarati, a sort of oral history of Fred Penner's place and its legacy. I found a lot of other details all over the place, but Zarati's article formed the backbone of this script. Link in the description below. Thank you all for watching. If you'd like to support Knacks and other Pop Arena projects, consider contributing to my Patreon. Every dollar goes to research materials, production values, and oatmeal. I'm into overnight oats these days. You can also support the channel by liking the video, leaving a comment, subscribing, hitting that bell icon for notifications, following me on Twitter, sending a one-time donation through PayPal or Coffee, and sharing Knacks with all your friends. Thank you for watching, and remember, Black Lives Matter.